the guy who attempted to assassinate President Trump. You guys should watch this if you haven't yet. It's posted on Tucker Carlson's X account and everything. But major takeaways from it. This is just Tucker's going into the FBI. Somebody from the FBI, when they were initially questioned about Crooks, had said that he didn't have an online footprint. The only assassin in history who didn't leave a manifesto, didn't leave any kind of digital footprint online, allegedly. Now, Tucker made that statement that the FBI had said that. Last week, the FBI came out and I think retweeted him back and said, we never said that he didn't have an online footprint. So there's some kind of weird thing going on back and forth with them. But the biggest things from Tucker's piece, he insinuates throughout the piece, which is something that I think a lot of us are already thinking, right? But he insinuates it directly here, which is that Thomas Crooks was potentially, I guess the two pieces, he was potentially groomed by either some type of, what is it, M2K Ultra? It sounds like a beer to me, but whatever CIA program there was that groomed people with mind control and stuff like that. He insinuates that he was either groomed by our own government to commit acts of violence or by potentially some foreign government. He brings up during this expose that Thomas Crooks started off as a very much MAGA guy, and then around 2020 made a really weird flip to where he started going very anti-Trump. And around that same time, I forget the guy's actual name, but I think his last name's Tepe, Will Tepe maybe. Tucker points out they found this discussion with this random guy who pops up in, I think it's Thomas Crooks' YouTube comments, who seems to be encouraging Crooks. Crooks is, they got all these comments where he's encouraging violence or saying some pretty radical things online in public. And out of nowhere, this guy really starts encouraging him and being like, it doesn't matter unless you do something about it. And it's only worth, your life's only really worth something if you're really willing to stand up for something and stuff like that, right? Tucker points out that we haven't heard anything about this guy who's talking to Thomas Crooks online at all from the FBI or anybody. He points out that the FBI consistently, when questioned on Thomas Crooks, refers to some court case that's ongoing as a reason why they can't talk about it. I think they may be referring to the second Trump shooter, the guy who tried to shoot him at the golf course. Maybe that's the court case they're referring to. But Tucker suggests that he was groomed to commit the crime, and he also suggests towards the end of the expose that Crooks was almost assisted in carrying out an assassination attempt. He points out some really odd timing things about the day of the assassination. The first one being, I guess Thomas Crooks was allowed to fly a drone over the rally prior to the assassination attempt. And apparently the Secret Service and everybody had like an anti-drone kind of monitoring team in place. Whatever devices they used to monitor the drones went down. He presents a log of this. That device went down at the exact same time that Thomas Crooks is flying his drone over the rally. Again, it's insinuation. Tucker doesn't present any concrete evidence of these things, but when you listen to it, you're like, that is weird, right? The building that Thomas Crooks gets on top of to shoot from is just outside of the FBI's perimeter, or the Secret Service perimeter rather, right? So that particular building is given to, I think it was 3 police officers who are tasked with watching it, and I think one of them called out that day. So Tucker points all these things out. My feeling on this is sort of the same as any Trump supporter. When you watched the shot happen live in real time on the day of, or just shortly thereafter, I think anyone watching it had the reaction that I did, which is, oh shit, they almost got him. And when I say it did feel like at the time there were some dark forces within our own government who might want to try to take Trump out. So I think anyone who was a supporter of his watching had that sort of dread in their stomach, not just that that's what had happened, but that it wasn't going to be over with just that one attempt, that there might be several in the future. So Tucker's sort of along those same lines, but he's presenting some pretty interesting stuff here. Nothing along the lines of concrete evidence, though. So is it possible that Crooks actually was just a crazy guy who took it into his own hands to make an assassination attempt? Maybe. But you look at Tyler Robinson, right, the Charlie Kirk shooter. It appears from looking at what we've come to know about him that he was groomed somewhat through some type of, maybe it's a trans, furry community. There was just some news released today that Thomas Crooks may have been himself part of some sort of a furry community, right? So it's not that hard to imagine somebody who wanted Trump gone or out of the presidential race grooming this kid. I remember talking about this with my sister, and that's what I was saying, is if I wanted to do it, that's exactly how I would do it. If I were some deep state force, I wouldn't go out and do it myself, and I wouldn't go out. I would find some kid who's got nothing to lose, doesn't really have much going on for him, is already displaying violent tendencies, and I would just encourage it, and I would give him whatever sort of assistance he needed to carry it out, which is what Tucker presents. The drone monitoring system goes down. The building isn't under Secret Service perimeter, even though it's really close to the rally. That's kind of crazy. So, I don't know. I recommend watching it. And there is something weird about the FBI's silence around Crooks. Again, first assassin, I've never seen any manifesto, reasoning. You see all these Antifa shooters, they're writing their motives on the bullet casings. This guy left nothing behind. He also talks about an interesting thing, how the FBI, I guess, authorized his body for cremation within 10 days after the event and washed down the roof themselves. I don't know. It's a pretty crazy story. I'm surprised we haven't heard more about this, which that alone makes you think there probably is something weird with it. What else we got going on? There was the news that Crooks was a furry. I guess this was, I don't know if this is even confirmed. I just heard it today on X. Benny Johnson talks about it's now been confirmed that the guy who used them pronouns had a deep interest in furries and was exploring gender identity. Added to the list. And Benny Johnson goes through all of these trans-associated shooters who were either mass shooters or assassins. This kind of trans terror violence that's been going on recently. Megyn Kelly responded to this story, actually. She had an interesting post on X where she was suggesting that the FBI handed over the info on Thomas Crooks being a furry in order to head fake people away from Tucker Carlson's story, which is weird. She's bringing up a good point that this is odd timing for something that seems a little too on the nose, maybe, to pop up out of nowhere. The Monday following Tucker dropping this story.
Because she just has excellent sources inside the government. And to me, this almost seems like a head fake, almost like a look over here instead of at what Tucker did, because it's just too coincidental that, as you point out, we've had nothing on this guy, nothing. And now suddenly two big information dumps. He's being honest about exactly where he got it. Then comes this stuff about he's a furry. You tell me, why would the government not have shared that? Truly, why wouldn't the FBI have been sharing the furry thing with us? Because this FBI did share that around the Nashville shooter, the young woman who was identifying as male, whereas Biden's FBI wouldn't. But this FBI did share those facts about that shooter. This FBI did share those facts again about the Charlie shooter. So I'm a little confused as to what may be going on behind the scenes.
That 100% tracks. Why would they disclose those in the other cases but not keep this under wraps for this long? And it's kind of crazy. Megyn Kelly references a person who released this story, I guess, Miranda Devine. Miranda responds to her, says, "This is false. Tucker and I have the same source. The FBI gave me nothing, as I said in the story. The leadership of the FBI, in fact, has been nothing but hostile. You could have asked me or Tucker." So, I don't know. It's interesting. I think Megyn Kelly brings up a really good point. The one thing that I think is true is everything about this story and how it's unfolded and how much we still don't know does stink. You would think that an assassination attempt against Trump that happened over a year ago would be the most aired out story in the world. We should know everything about this by now. Every single thing. We know almost nothing. So that leads you to believe that either the government was somehow involved and is trying to hide it, or that they know some other government is involved. Maybe there's something else that they know about it. Maybe some other foreign power was involved, right? And they don't really want to disclose that at this point. But based on Trump's own family and his sons saying that they think the FBI or the CIA were involved, it doesn't seem to me like family Trump is aware of any foreign connection or anything that we're unaware of. So, pretty crazy.